This is what I was worried about. When the NBA gambling scandal was revealed last month, I was wondering how long it would be before it hit college basketball. Because this is your pressure point. This is your weak link. In order to recruit an NBA player into your gambling scheme, you got to have a lot of money. Dudes making $15, $20, $30 million a year, they're not going to risk their career for a few $1,000s. But broke college athletes, dudes that are starving if they don't make it to the cafeteria before it closes, those are the kids most vulnerable to getting involved with gambling. Well, Casey, what are you talking about? College basketball players are now making millions. Yeah, the major stars are making millions. Starters at your major programs, they're making good money. But these kids at Wiener Tech, these kids at Pound My Brown State, the only thing they are given is first-class tickets on the Bruce Caboose. Headline at ESPN, 6 players from 3 schools through college basketball games. One of the kids involved, BJ Freeman, he went to Arizona State, a prominent program. He was accused of sharing, inside information with one of his friends. But most of the kids involved in this scheme, they went to the University of New Orleans and something called Mississippi Valley State, which was news to me because I didn't know that there were valleys in the state of Mississippi. I knew there were plenty of dumps, especially in the shithole known as Jackson, but I didn't know that there were valleys in Mississippi. 3 players from the team in New Orleans, they manipulated their performance last season in 7 games. Translation, they intentionally lost so they could win their bets. In one game, New Orleans was a 23-point underdog. They lost the game by 25 points. Now, how much were they paid? A measly $5,000. They risked their college basketball careers for $5,000. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the main channels in the description below. You know, part of me feels bad for these kids. I'm sure for some of them, $5,000 is life-changing money. You multiply that by 7 games, you're talking $35,000. Now, in the real world, 35 grand will have you living below the poverty line. But for a broke college kid, $35,000 is a lot of money, especially when you consider the fact that these dudes have no chance of going pro. They're not making the NBA. Hell, the vast majority of college basketball players aren't going to make it to the NBA. But kids playing at New Orleans, kids playing at Mississippi Valley State, they would be lucky to make minimum wage in the G League. The NCAA announced yesterday that all 6 players obviously have been banned. Well, KC, that's great! The problem has been solved! Woohoo! Yes, yes, yes! No. This is just the beginning of a very serious problem. According to ESPN, the NCAA is currently investigating 30 players for their potential involvement in gambling schemes. And that's just the 30 players the NCAA knows about. If I had to guess, you could triple, maybe even quadruple that number, and it still would not include every player that is fixing games. Look, gambling has always been a problem in sports, especially at the collegiate level where the players are the most vulnerable. Back in the 1980s, Henry Hill was bribing players at Boston College to fix games. Even at the NBA level, fans have always suspected that some of the games were being fixed. Obviously, games officiated by Tim Donaghy were being rigged, but for the most part, that's all it was, suspicion. Now we have proof. The gambling ring involved in fixing games in the NBA, it's the same ring involved in college basketball. It's gotten to the point where college and pro basketball, this is no different than the WWE. At least the WWE admits they're fixing matches. And even with that being the case, you still have lonely men betting boogers on the outcomes of orchestrated fights in WWE. The worst mistake this country made, and I believe this happened during the Trumpers' first term. I want to say this happened in 2017, maybe 2018. The worst mistake this country made was legalizing gambling on a national level. This put the leagues in a tough spot. And look, Roger Goodell, Adam Silver, they are not blameless here. They have fully embraced gambling to the detriment of their leagues. But when the federal government legalized it, it put the leagues in a tough spot. For decades, they could hide behind the fact that gambling was illegal. With it being legalized, you're kind of in a lose-lose. You either ban it in your league, which is impossible because it's going to happen anyway, or you embrace it and you do your best to regulate it. The problem is, there is no regulating it. Adam Silver can't tap the phones of every NBA player and monitor what they're doing. Even if he could, they would just buy burner phones or use friends and family. This is a widespread problem. Anytime you see something suspicious, anytime you see an obvious call that goes wrong, you'll automatically assume it's gambling, and more than likely, you will be assuming correctly. You know, after the Tim Donaghy scandal, David Stern and the NBA, they did a phenomenal job of silencing him. They did an excellent job at making Tim Donaghy appear to be a lone wolf. But there is absolutely no way other referees were not involved. When you're working with someone every day for years, you notice abnormalities in their behavior, changes in their behavior. Tim Donaghy started working NBA games back in the 90s. Before he got involved in gambling, he was working with these dudes for 7, 8, 10 years. You really think none of them noticed? You really think there wasn't anyone else in the NBA involved in his scheme? Over the summer, we talked about the long history of coincidences at the NBA draft. For example, this past year, Mavs trade Luka Doncic, somehow land the number 1 pick in the draft, Cooper Flagg. How coincidental. Do I think every NBA game is fixed? Do I think every college basketball game is fixed? Obviously not. But it only takes one game to stain the turd. This is a self-created problem. This is a problem that America embraced. And now, I don't think you have a solution outside of the federal government making it illegal, which ain't gonna happen. And even if it did, it's too late. So I don't know. I don't know how you solve this problem. The question is, will it start impacting viewership? If more and more people realize that games are being fixed, will they continue to watch? You tell me. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.